Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Abbey the Podcast Lady. Today's episode is one that I am very excited for as a busy entrepreneur myself. When I had a message come through on Podmatch, I was just like, yep, this is an immediate yes. We are definitely talking to this person. So I would like to introduce George Rivera to the show. George, thank you so much for taking time to join me today.
Hey, Abbey, excited to be here. Can't wait to get into it.
So, your whole thing is about getting your time back and buying it back and being a present person in your life outside of your business. And this is something that I know I have personally struggled with being in year 3 of entrepreneurship. I'm full-time self-employed. Life is crazy. And I feel sometimes like I'm letting personal relationships and family relationships kind of slip through the cracks because I'm so focused on making sure my business survives and thrives. So I'm really excited for the conversation we're going to have today, and hopefully I can have a little mindset shift by the end of it.
Awesome. Let's get into it.
Okay, so give me like a 10,000 foot overview. Who are you and how did you find yourself being the authority in this space?
Yeah, so 31-year entrepreneur. I started my business back in the mid 90s, 1995. That's when dinosaurs used to roam the earth, and started in the online space, a direct response. At a high level, that's just you put money in, money comes out. And that difference, hopefully it's profitable. That's how you pay your bills and feed your family. And that's what I've been doing for a majority of my careers. Built very successful online companies for myself, had an agency doing similar things for clients. And it's been a great run. Over the last year, I've had kind of a pretty significant pivot in my life, kind of coming out of the shadows of somebody who's behind the scenes, building companies, behind ad spend, to like, hello, I'm George Rivera and I have something I can offer the world. And so it's been quite a difference because it's the first time I've ever like publicly come out with something that I could like help the world with that has my name on it. And it's basically like talking to the me of 10 years ago. And I call that avatar to speak marketing. It's cash rich, time poor. And it means that, you're successful on paper, but on the time side, your business gets all your time and your family gets little to none of that time. And so I found myself where a lot of founders find themselves, what I call the founder prison. And it's not a place we build intentionally, but we get a business going and it gets momentum and we get pulled into just it seems like every decision that the business has to make. And momentum halts the second that we stop, and the second we go to sleep, the second we try to take a vacation or be with our family. And I found myself in that place, and it wasn't a good place, especially when you're trying to grow and scale a business. And so I had to work my way out of that. And it really took my dad, essentially in 2015, basically his dying wish to really get me to realize what I was on path to doing with my family. And he gave me the words that sort of like guide me today. He said, "Don't miss Leo's games. I miss too many of yours." And
Oh.
he told me that a couple of weeks before he passed away. And Leo's my son. He's about 10, 11 months at the time that he said that statement. And I'm already blowing it. I'm already missing the moments of him, his first, learning how to walk and talk and being a little boy. And so when my dad told me that, I had a flashback to when I was in high school. I played in about 40 basketball games. I'd score a basket. I looked to the stands to see my loving, approving father, and he wasn't there. But my teammates would score and their dads were there cheering like crazy. And I remember looking at another dad while he was loving on his son. And I was like, I wish that was my dad. And I would have crushed my dad. He was a good man. He was a textbook provider, always working, but his career essentially got all of his time and his family got little to none of it. But he was great with giving us nice homes, cars, and trips to Europe every summer. But when we needed him most, and when I needed him, he wasn't there. And that was beautiful closure to whatever that was as a child. I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to label that, but closure there. But the other side was like, holy cow, I'm version 2 of my dad. I'm doing the nice homes, cars, trips to Europe thing in exchange for my presence with my family. And when he made that statement, I'm like, okay, I get it. This stops here. This is not going to continue. But it starts tomorrow because I'm working 16 hours today. And tomorrow turns into tomorrow. Tomorrow turns into 3 years of tomorrows. And now my dad is 3 years gone. And I scale my business to places I'd never imagined I would be. Scaled it to $20 million in 2018. But I was hating life as a result. And I was perplexed because you tell me years prior, one day you're going to have a $20 million business. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I made it to the summit. We're good. But in reality, I was not enjoying life because of the effects of being pulled into the business, what it was costing me at home with my family. So yeah, could pick it up there, but that's kind of how it all started.
That is something that I don't want to say tale as old as time, time, but it's definitely stories we've heard before in the past of people just get so sucked into wanting their business to be successful that the family falls behind on the emotional needs and all that. I know growing up, I had two working parents, and same thing. They're loving, they wanted to be there, but they were busy trying to provide for me and my sister. And I don't hold anything against them. I'm like, you guys were doing what you thought was right and what you needed to do. I understand that you wish you probably could have been at more things, but I also am like, I'll find another parent to give me a hug. I'll be okay. And like,
Yeah.
that's not exactly the best approach to it, but it's the approach that we all took. We all have our own specific lived experiences with that. So, what did you find as like the solution to this problem when you finally realized, okay, I need to do something, we need to make a change? What was that solution? What were the first couple steps you took?
Yeah, so basically what happened in 2018 when I realized I'm scaling this business, but I'm not enjoying my life, I had two options. One was to sell my business, but you can't snap your fingers and sell a business. It's a multi-year process. You got to get your finances in order, then you got to get an evaluation, then you got to hit the market, then you got to get an LOI. LOIs have an 80% like they don't go through rate, and then purchase order. Like that's a multi-year process. That's not a solve my problem tomorrow process, but you can burn a business down. And I thought about lighting a match to my business, pulling the plug on the servers and just let whatever happens, because the outcome of that would have been peace and reconnecting with my family. So I was considering that. But at the time, I had a coach and a mentor, and he lovingly walked me off of the ledge of making a horrific decision. But you're in the fog of war, you can't really see clearly. And what I did was basically took his advice. He said, stop doing what you don't like doing and keep doing what you're good at. I'm just like, all right, 23 years in business, and that finally clicks. I guess better late than never. So I started doing the work. And that's when the work that I do now really started, but I had to do it for myself. I didn't know what buyback time formula was. That name didn't exist. I didn't know what a bottleneck was. I didn't know what a framework was. I'm just doing the work. And it took a couple of years to really get to the other side of that transformation. But when I did, I more than doubled my business to just shy of $50 million. I was living a semi-retired lifestyle, never working more than 30 hours a week, very intentional where my time went. But the most impressive thing of all of that was, like my dad said, don't miss Leo's games. I never missed any of his games. In fact, I taught him how to negotiate real estate at 8 years old. A byproduct of the cash flow of our company is like I'm investing in other things, trying to expand our footprint, our little empire, or what we can control. And one of them is investment properties. And we have a home up in northern Michigan. My primary home's in Texas, and it's on the lake. And one day this other home came on the market, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like we have the best home on the lake as far as from an investment standpoint. This is going to be our competition. So I'm looking it up and I'm thinking, we're just going to buy it. Unless it's just a bundle of sticks, we're just going to buy it. It makes sense. And then we're looking at the house, and the realtor gives us, as a family, a couple minutes to discuss a loan. And I remember like the old me would have said something like, son, here's an iPad, go ahead and sit down in that room and play till your heart's content. And I don't think anybody would have judged me for that. But the new me is like, this is a teachable moment. Son, you're going to make the offer to the realtor. And so I told him, all right, tell him we're going to close in 30 days. Here's the price we're going to pay. Leave the furniture, leave the dock, because this is an investment property. This will save us like $100,000. Go. And he's like, why am I doing this? And I'm like, just go. We'll debrief later. And then he's talking to the realtor, and he's a tall guy, and he's kind of looking down at this little kid, little smirk, like, man, talking closing and all this stuff. And he looks at me, doesn't say anything, but with his eyes, he's just asking, like, is that the offer? And I'm like, whippersnapper spoke for us. That's the offer. And we got the house. Of course, the terms got to make sense, but he conveyed the terms. And I see that from a legacy perspective. Like one day he's going to be with his kids saying, Grandpa took me to make these deals. You kids are going to make the offer. And so like the impact of that's just going to outlive me, essentially. Just I can see the generational impacts, and even more to current day. So he's 11 now. He's got a podcast. He's interviewed, I think we're on 56. We're like a little over 50 guests so far. And he's 11. He doesn't have a network. His peers are his friends that are like his age.
Yeah.
So these are my friends and peers. And he showed an interest of wanting to do some stuff online. So I just kind of opened the door for him. And we did a mock podcast, him interviewing me. We edited. I was like, hey, it's kind of good. Let's just publish it as episode number 1. I posted it on my Facebook for people to see. And oh my gosh, your son's got a pod, blah, blah, blah. And I showed him the response. And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is awesome. Let's do some more. So I lined up some guests for him. And now like it's taken a life of its own. And I kind of divert on my son, but like that's just evidence of a present dad in the home is you could do that stuff. Because like his trajectory was going to be just another kid on an iPhone that doesn't know how to look up, shake people's hands and say, nice to meet you. So it's been quite a dramatic shift. And again, that just goes to show present dad in the home with the leadership. So I found myself in this interesting place over the last couple of years, trying to find what I want to do with the rest of my life. I've already done all these things and I can keep doing those things, but it's like, okay, I can enrich my family and it's nice to give money and you can do good things with that. And that's fine. Keep doing that. But I want my work to have meaning, like my hands, my labor to actually like have impact, not just sell supplements and stuff. And they're good products, but I've never had anybody say, "Oh my gosh, your bottle of pills completely changed my life." Maybe they get less joint pain. Maybe they can think a little clearer, and that's fine. It's not a miracle in a bottle, but ever since I've come out with this message, I've had just a number of just people tell me like, "Oh my gosh, my kids light up like a Christmas tree at my presence. I didn't realize how much my presence meant to them because they were also in that founder prison, sort of just over here doing it for the family, even though the family never asked for it. But that's what we tell ourselves to justify staying in that trap."
What great examples of like those life lessons, like you said, those are going to be legacy lessons for your children to be learning, and just having a present dad who's like feeding into like, we think we want to do some stuff online. Okay, let's figure it out as a family, how we're going to help you explore this new territory. I think that is so amazing and so encouraging. And I absolutely love that. I'm not a parent myself, but that I feel like if I was, that'd be the kind of parent I'd be.
Yeah.
So the thing that really like hooked me in with your pitch to me on Podmatch was the 10K an hour filter. I would love to hear more about what exactly that entails, because I saw that, I'm like, I feel like there's like something in the universe calling to me saying that I need to learn more about this. So can you please explain the 10K an hour filter to me?
Absolutely. So 10K is just a number that I put for myself that when I'm in my zone of genius at my peak, I'm worth $10,000 an hour. So the listener might say, okay, well, I'm worth 500 or I'm worth 100 or I'm worth 100,000. Like figure out how much your time is worth. So get that clear. We all have an idea. And if you don't, I'd say just figure out a number and then double it because it's probably more than you're giving yourself credit for. And so what do you do with that? So we take one step back a little bit and we need to review what it is that we're doing. We need to shine a light on all the activities because if we don't know what we're doing, we don't know where we're starting. And there's a system of getting all that together. But once you have that list, you're going to have a list of things that you're doing. And then we need to run that through the 10K per hour filter, or again, whatever number per hour filter that you have. When I did this for myself at the peak, I was working 80 hours a week. I identified that 40 of those 80 hours were done on tasks that were $50 an hour or less. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but 40 hours times $50 is $2,000. That's $8,000 a month, just almost 100,000 a year. And for a business doing $20 million a year, that's like an afternoon of sales to cover all that. But when you're in the fog of war in the activity and you're being pulled in a million different directions, you can't stop to even look at that with any sort of clarity. So I went several years doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, which was sucking away at my life, at my motivation, at my happiness, costing me my family. And so when I finally did this, I realized that I could essentially have somebody else do that work so that it wasn't constantly falling on me. So, okay, so we got that off of my plate. And there's a process of what do you do with those things you get off of your plate? But then the other half, there's still 40 hours. That's still like a lot of work. I mean, technically full time. But what happened is when I was focused on just those 40 hours, it actually compressed down to 20 hours because those are the what I call zone of genius activities that I should be doing, things that move revenue for the business, things like strategic relationships. And when I'm in the supplement space or marketing anything, I'm thinking, what are other products I could sell? What are other marketplaces I can enter? How can we refine our messaging? That's revenue generating activity, not the other stuff that I moved off of my plate. And so I realized that my time went from 40 to 20 because now I'm working with complete mental clarity, less stress, less context switching, because that murders productivity. And that's how you essentially work less and make more money. When you first say it, kind of like doesn't make sense, but it's not like we're abandoning all of these other things. We're having other people do them, oftentimes better and more qualified. But part of the entrepreneur identity is this is my baby and only I can do it. And they don't want to let go. And it's like, that was me. I didn't want to let go. But when I did let go, I was like, holy cow, somebody's doing it 80%. That's fine. I say if I'm 100 and somebody's 80, like I can live with that 20% breakage. So I move myself out of the way and they take that 80% to like 120. If I'm still at 100, I'm like, oh my gosh, why was I even hanging on to this? And once you get addicted to that, you're like, what else can I get off of my plate? And then you seek that dopamine hit from somewhere else. The old way, dopamine hit comes from being a hero in my business. I'm helping my team succeed. And we think that's leadership, but that's really not leadership because you're training them to depend on you. But the true form of leadership is to give them the tools they need to succeed. So yeah, that's the 10K per hour filter, giving you a little context on how we utilize that and how we kind of run it through. And then eventually we end up with the things we should keep doing and then the things we should remove off our plate.
As someone who is just starting to take on virtual assistants and take on people locally that have approached me and said that they want to help out, like, I have a very hard time with loosening the grip on what I'm doing for my business because it is my business. It's called Abbey Graves Productions. My name is on this. My reputation is the brand. So I feel this very deeply in my soul, but I have noticed in the past month of working with some extra help that it does make a difference. And it hurts to admit that because I'm like, I'm right. I can do everything. No, you can't. You need help. And if you find the right people, and just like you said, that 80% to 100% gap, if you can live with that 20%, live with it because it's going to make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And then the time you get back, that's where you're focusing on your zone of genius, reconnect and restore the bond with your family that's been broken over a bunch of broken promises, not intentional, but yeah, I'll be there. Oops, I can't. Business fire. Sorry, you understand. That's what pays the bills. And it just keeps you going in that vicious cycle. So getting that stuff off your plate is the first step towards freedom.
Yes, for sure. The other thing I really wanted to chat with you about, because I actually am just coming off of a vacation myself. I didn't have a 2 week vacation, I had a 4 day vacation, but it was a vacation nonetheless. It was actually the longest stretch of time I've had since starting my business without opening my laptop. And luckily, the world didn't burn down. The world's still turning. We're still ready to rock on Monday. But I would love for you to explain your 2 week vacation test.
Absolutely. The best way to explain it is what I typically do when I'm onboarding a client. We're on a call like this. We can see each other and we're talking. And one of the first things before we get into any of the strategic and get going stuff, I'm like, all right, look at your calendar 6 months ahead from now. And we're going to block out 2 weeks where you're going to go on vacation with your family, give or take. It doesn't have to be exactly 6 months, but somewhere where there's a 2 week block. And usually the first thing that they do is they gasp and they're like, well, how in the world am I going to take a 2 week vacation? Like, I can't even take an afternoon off. And I'm just like, oh, wow, I'm so thankful you shared that. You need this more than you know. Like, that just validates that they're there. So if you fear this or you have this sense of fear and this gasp, then yeah, then you need the 2 week vacation. FYI. But what we do is, or my response is usually, well, we're starting now. Like, the clock starts right now. That's how we do it. And we don't blindly walk into it. The goal is in the first 14 days or so, first couple of weeks, we identify that low hanging fruit to buy back some time right away. Then the goal is to have like version 1 of this whole thing done in 90 days so that by the end of 90 days, we're somewhere between 10 and 20 hours per week bought back. It might not be perfect, but we've got version 1 going and we're still working together to identify any little leaky buckets and holes. You're not going to catch them all, but we're going to get a good number of them right away. And then we do what's called absence rehearsal tests. So again, we don't cold turkey go on 2 week vacation. So you are freaking out about an afternoon on an onboarding call. So we're going to take an afternoon off and you're going to see, like you just said, the world's not going to fall apart. You think it's going to fall apart, but it won't. And so we need to train your brain that it's okay. So what's the worst case that can happen? Maybe the accounting department doesn't get an email or fulfillment doesn't get a notice or something. So something is delayed by a few hours. That doesn't cripple the business. That just exposes a tiny little leak that we need to button up so that we can do another absence rehearsal test to make sure that we caught that and see what else is exposed when we're away a little bit longer. So the next test might be 2 days in the middle of the week, a couple weeks down the line, and something else might slip through the cracks. Not catastrophic, but it reveals what we need to plug in. And so what this does is it trains your brain. World didn't fall apart. We fixed the little leaky and we're good. And then we're ready for our 2 week vacation test. Already having a history of the world didn't fall apart. We've identified the leaky buckets. And the goal is to have a number 2 in place where everything just stops to them. Nothing penetrates to the founder while they're on the 2 week vacation. I usually have somebody say, well, give me an example of something that could, because the imagination just wants the answer to that. And if there's like a legal life or death kind of thing, but having done this for a number of clients and myself over the years, it's never happened. So usually that's just like, well, what if this, what if that? And so the only thing that the founder needs to see while they're on their 2 week vacation is a daily scorecard that shows them how their business is doing on any given day. Now, the goal isn't for the business to just maintain. And normally it goes backwards when the founder steps away, when they don't have any of this stuff in place. The goal is for it to grow while you're away. And so you will receive a daily scorecard with the top, call it 5 to 8 numbers. Every business is different, but in my case, my numbers were top line revenue, bottom line profit, and then there's some numbers in between that are important as well. But then some marketing numbers like clicks to the website, number of orders, conversion rate, average order value, so that in less than 30 seconds, I can take a quick look and see, okay, everything looks good. We're good. Next day, okay, good. Identifying if we're growing. If there's ever a time to be concerned, I will see my key numbers will show me like, okay, where's any breakage? Oh, our conversion rate's low. That explains why revenue's a little bit low. Not the end of the world. We're good. But this prevents you from having to log in to 20 different CRMs and autoresponders and systems while you're on vacation, which is like the worst place to be. Don't ask me how I know. So yeah, long-winded way to explain the 2-week vacation. And then you come back and then see like, okay, what leaky buckets do I identify? We tie them up and we do it again. But the goal is by then, any leaky buckets will be minimal. You've got a team in place to handle those situations. And if something happens to escalate and penetrate, then how do we systematize this so it doesn't happen again? So you use all of these escalations as almost like internal like case studies on this is how we fix this for next time.
That is amazing. There's been kind of a trend lately on Instagram of like people going, "Oh, owning a business will have you standing in places on your, looking at your phone like you're texting a toxic ex." Once I saw that trend, I'm like, "Oh my God, I have been that person and I don't want to be that person." So this is a great system to try to set up, like test it by the afternoon, fix the problem, and then now you have a solution for it for next time. I love this. This is immediately getting implemented into my business.
Awesome. Yeah, that's it. And it only happens by doing it. We can sort of like forecast the things, and that's great. That'll cover a lot of things, but only by stepping away for a little period to just see what leaky buckets might exist. That's how you identify it, fix it, and create systems for any other like urgent situations that keep pulling you in. And that's how you prevent it from happening again.
I think that's absolutely fabulous. We're getting kind of close to the end of our time here, but I do have a couple of last things I want to get to. My kind of big last question is for people finding themselves in what you called the founder prison. What is your best advice for getting out of it? Taking those baby steps and getting yourself out of that cage that you accidentally put yourself in.
Absolutely. So I have this saying that you're scaling one of two things. You're either scaling freedom or you're scaling chaos. In my case, I was scaling chaos. Like when I was at $20 million, I had a company infrastructure that was great for a $3 million a year company. But at 20, as you're growing, it tends to break and it exposes like the weak spots. So my suggestion for somebody who finds themselves in that founder trap is figure out what are those things that keep pulling you back in and find a way to not be pulled in by those things. And that's by systematizing those processes. We can go into like the specific frameworks in doing so, but if you're tired of being pulled back in and you realize that it's costing you time with the ones that you love or just driving you insane, for me, it was both, then you have your reason why to get into it and figure out a solution for it.
That's great. And then my last, another one that just kind of popped in my head. So I work with a lot of like beginner podcasters, a lot of beginner entrepreneurs as clients having podcasts to promote those businesses. If someone's sitting here listening and hearing how you have this multi-million-dollar business, but they're maybe in the multi-thousand-dollar phase right now, what advice do you have for them starting out with their business to set it up the right way so they don't feel overwhelmed and in this prison?
Yeah, it's never too early to set up the proper frameworks, even if you're just like a one-person show. If your goal is to eventually grow the business, which I believe it's like every founder's desire to do, you're never going to be stuck in that beginner level, or that's the goal, then set it up in a way that you can essentially just add people to the system and the frameworks because you don't want to catch this late. Trust me, it'll pull at your emotions, at your life, and it doesn't get you in a good place. And I don't know, sometimes people just need to experience it to totally get it. I hope people can like hear this and say, I don't want to get to that point. But yeah, you're never too early to learn the proper systems and frameworks so that you have a foundation, so that you can have an idea of where it's going to go and you can point it versus, "Oh, I'll just figure it out when I get there." And when you do, it could be too late. Hopefully it's not, but it totally could be.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, last question I have for you. What is a podcast that you've been listening to lately and liking to listen to?
Podcast that I've been listening to lately. It's a non-business podcast. His name's Preston. It's a Christian-based podcast. It's just on how to deal with adversities and anxieties and just overcoming challenges. It's just a theme that I just really enjoy getting deep into. I find that a lot of people that I'm coming across, in addition to their business challenges, bring a lot of personal challenges. And it's like, okay, I thought I was helping people with business, but there's an aspect of that where there's just like personal and identity stuff to deal with. And so I'm learning how other people are sort of advising and working through those situations. And even for me personally to deal when those situations come up, because even though I've established a framework that works and it's working for me, I'm not perfect. I still find myself kind of sometimes crawling back into those things that I thought I left a long time ago. I'll message you if I can find it so we can reference it. But he's got a podcast out of Arizona and I love it. I hear it. I feel empowered. I feel like I've got stuff I can share with the people that I communicate with. Yeah, I wish I had that name, but I'll find it.
I'm sure I'll be able to find it based on the context clues. I'll make sure it gets in the show notes.
Yes. Awesome.
This has been so much fun, George. Thank you so much for your insight. I know it has completely changed my mindset like I wanted it to, so mission accomplished. Where can everyone get your book and stay in contact with you?
Thank you, Abby. This has been awesome. It's been fun, and I'm grateful to hear that it's had a good impact. Yeah, to find me, just go to my website. It's buybacktimeformula.com. There you could see links to my book. You could see links to my socials. I post every day. I host some events. I host dinners at my house for local entrepreneurs that want to come, and I will feed you in the Austin area. I have a virtual event as well for those that might not want to travel or can't travel, and another number of things that I do. But it all starts at buybacktimeformula.com.
Wonderful, George. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.